Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast live from State Farm Stadium. It's the post-game show, the red and white practice. It's also the debut for this newest member of the podcast, Johnny Venerable, Bo Brock, Saul Bookman in the house, the GM, Greg Dortch. Welcome, Greg. Thanks so much. Caught a touchdown today, ran up here, jumped on the post-game show.
Man, it was fun. Just getting back out there with everybody, new coaches, new teammates. Today was fun. There's a lot of fans out here. It was really fun.
We finally added some playmaking to this crew.
Yes.
No disrespect to Saul Bookman. He probably brings the most out of the three of us.
Zero.
Yeah. But I feel like when your career's over, Greg, you're going to have an autobiography out there. It's going to be The Art of Getting Open. I mean, it's unbelievable how much space you create out there. You continue to do it today. You've done it all training camp. Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, man. Honestly, it's just a gift from God. Honestly, like I've been blessed to be able to just make people miss in spaces and just create opportunities for myself and just get open. Like I can't really put too much on me, man. It's really a God-gifted talent.
I'm not trying to set you up for failure by any stretch of the imagination, but what's the difference between last year and this year in terms of camp?
I think from a player standpoint, I think the coaches this year are taking care of our bodies a little bit more. I know camp is supposed to be tough, but I just think their philosophy and how they look at taking care of us and making sure we're ready to go, I think they're doing a really good job at that.
Greg, you would pop off last year for big games, touchdowns, yardage, and then we would watch this podcast, this show, and we would be adamant that why isn't he getting more opportunities? Was it frustrating for you last year to be as productive as you were? You were the number one receiver, advanced metrics, and separation. And you probably had a bunch of people telling you, where's the opportunities? Do you feel like that's going to change in this year and you're given those opportunities because you've earned them?
Nothing's earned, man, in this league. I would be lying if I said I wasn't frustrated. But just coming from where I came from, before I even got to the Cardinals, I was at home sitting on the couch just waiting for an opportunity. And then I got my opportunity with the Cardinals, got on the practice squad, and I've just been working from day one. So, like, I didn't feel like they owed me an opportunity. I was just waiting. And when it came, I took advantage of that. And that's what the NFL is, man. When you get your number called, you got to either step up and perform or it may never get called again. So definitely was frustrating just because I'm a competitor and I want to go out there and I want to show what I can do. But when your number's called, you just got to take advantage of that. And I feel like I did that.
I'll never say you're content because I don't think you're content. I'm sure you still want to do a lot in this league and you've got some high aspirations and you had a fantastic season, but are you seeing that your hard work is paying off at least? I mean, what your performance last year in training camp translated to snaps in the regular season. It translated to you coming back here, going into a big contract season for yourself. You get opportunities like joining, PHNX Sports, other things outside of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to feel like, things are trending in the right direction after all that hard work.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great feeling just to see all the hard work and, man, it's been a long journey. For real. This is my fifth team. If nobody knows about anything about my journey, this is my fifth team. This is my fifth year in the NFL. I played on 3 different teams as a rookie, getting cut and just getting told you're not good enough. 19 years old, leaving school early. Man, it's been a long journey. So just to see all the hard work paying off, it feels really good. But this is really just the beginning. Like I feel like I have so much more in the tank to show everybody. So I'm excited.
I mean, listen, man, this brother's got a lot of things going for him, for sure. Like, everything seems like it's trending in the right direction. Let's talk about one of those things, us. Obviously, we reached out to you, and we were like, hey, we want to give you an opportunity to do a few things. Some of these things we're not going to tell you about because we're going to tease them for later on. But we got some pretty cool things in the works. So you're going to be joining us the entire preseason. What about us appealed to you, and why did you want to kind of dabble in the podcast space?
Well, for me, I feel like I'm not really a guy who likes to talk like that as much. Like, I'll talk to people, but you kind of have to like start it.
Mm-hmm.
So for this is kind of new for me. Like, I never thought I would do something like this, but it's good to get out and let people hear your voice. And I don't know. It's a good thing. My dad actually listens to you guys' podcast.
Oh, that's fantastic.
He was excited. Like,
oh, yeah?
Bro, I love this podcast. You're going to be on it. So shout out to my dad, man. But I'm excited to be on this, man. I'm excited. You guys are good people.
You have a tremendous story, man.
Yeah.
That was one of the things when your name came up and we started talking, it was like, dude, how do we not how do we not go with Greg? Like he's got such a tremendous story. You're a man of faith. Like there's a lot of things that you've gone through in your life, a lot of obstacles but you've still managed to navigate them all to get to this point. And I think as we start to learn more about you, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are going to understand is your inspirational story, and you'll end up being an inspiration to a lot of people, if not already.
For sure. I just think about all the kids who are told they're too big or too small, not fast enough, can't play D1 level, can't make it to the NFL. Man, those are just opinions, man. Don't listen to anybody. Just keep your head down, pray, go to church, man. Just work hard, and it'll pay off at the end of the day. I promise you it'll pay off.
Scored a touchdown today, the newest member of the PHNX Cardinals podcast, Mr. Greg Dortch. We're going to let him go back and eat his food.
Well, can we find out what kind of ball Clayton Tombstone? Looks like a pretty ball out there.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. He's getting more comfortable and more comfortable. I'm excited. I'm not going to lie, man. I'm really excited to watch him play.
There was a play. It wasn't the touchdown, but it was a good anticipation where you'd kind of come across the field, and he didn't leave you waiting. It looked good from number 15.
A couple days ago in practice?
No, today. I think it was today.
Oh, the dig.
Before the touchdown.
That was really nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just getting the reps with him, man. He's getting more comfortable, and I can just feel a connection growing. Yeah. So it's exciting.
Yeah, we're excited to have you a part of our crew. You're a fan favorite amongst our fans, the Cardinal fans, and that was, one of the biggest reasons you bring up Greg Dortch and people light up. So thank you so much for hopping on with us. We look forward to chatting with you all throughout the course of the preseason.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you.
Man. Appreciate you. Thank you. Cool.
I want Greg to think about something, too. We're going to let him go. Maybe we'll tease this for a future appearance, who his GOAT Demon Deke is. Is it CP3? Is it Duncan? We'll get that answer later. We got to get that answer later because we've taken too much of his time today, but we're excited. Much more of Greg Dortch, of course, coming up here on this very podcast, PHNX Cardinals, PHNX Sports. We got a lot to break down, Johnny Venerable.
Well, it's a beautiful thing. You got the newest member of the podcast out there putting on a show for the Cardinal fandom here.
First tutty of the scrimmage, right there.
It was fantastic. It was typical Greg Dortch fashion. It was not a cupcake, but very much yards after catch. The separation was on display, and people are fired up. 83 forcing his way on the field. He's catching punts out there. To me, the standouts, and we teased it in the show title of this scrimmage, which by the way was much more physical than anything that we saw from the prior regime last year, was Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, and the music that they're making right now at the receiver position. Yak, physicality, explosiveness, nothing is handed from this group, and I think that's like the theme of this training camp. We even asked JG today, like, stuff about starters. Is Colt McCoy QB1 entering week 1? Do you know who your quarterback 1 is? What was Gannon's response? I don't know any of the starters.
Yeah, I don't know who's standing out, all 90. It didn't give us much. What do you expect to see today? Football, right? Good football.
I want to play good football.
Right. It's the KISS method, right? And we're not calling JG stupid here, but it's keep it simple, stupid. And let's just kind of see how things transpire. And I think that as we sit here, now less than a week from them opening up their preseason slate, he's still figuring out a lot. This is just the beginning. They're just scratching the surface. They're starting to lay the groundwork for what they want this team to look like and how they want them to play and how they want it to be built. And, I would say when you look at, the first red and white scrimmage of the Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon era, very successful.
Yeah, Jordan P. in the chat, you're dead on. I'll eat all the crow as it relates to Michael Wilson. He's saying in the chat, I remember when Johnny wasn't a big fan of Michael Wilson. Nice to see John on board with the pick. You can win me over quickly when you look like this young man out here, number 14. He's a specimen, not 1 but 2 touchdowns for the 3rd round pick out of Stanford. And Bo, it's one of those things where, like, okay, we go through OTAs, you go through minicamp. Hey, Michael Wilson looks good, right? Oh, he'll get opportunities. We'll see.
This is where we were with Dortch last year.
Right. Growing pains. Now, it's perfect segue. Like, we've had 2 consecutive, and we have to play the preseason still, 2 consecutive training camps where these wideouts are making their presence known. And unlike the prior regime, I feel pretty confident, as Saul Bookman rejoins the squad here, that Jonathan Gannon will not make the same mistakes as Cliff Kingsbury. Greg Dortch should have played more last year. Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson are both poised, I think, for big roles on this team in 2023 and beyond.
It's inevitable, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to knock Rondale Moore, but he has been injury-prone. And you're just waiting for one of these guys to possibly get dinged up.
Yep.
And Greg's going to take advantage. And I have no doubt that especially once we get to about that halfway point of the year, that's when I feel like Greg's really going to thrive.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have him on board. Obviously, we talked about that at length, but and this team just feels a little different right now. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that they're going to go out and they're going to surprise everybody and win 8 or 9 games this season or 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to be as bad as everybody thinks that they're going to be. I think they're going to be. Wow, what was that?
Something fell out there.
All right.
I think they're testing out some of the pregame.
The pyro, maybe?
The
yeah.
pyro, okay.
Producer Emma's going to go yell.
That was, can you keep it down? Yeah, that was a little scary, man. I was like, oh, shit, I thought it was a machine gun. I had a little PTSD.
Jordan's asking in the chat. He wants to know your thoughts on Michael Wilson.
I love Michael Wilson.
Yeah, man.
Like, you talked about separation with Dortch. Michael Wilson gets separation for it seems like every single person. The only time he didn't get separation today was on the deep ball on the right-hand side when Colt kind of forced it down the field.
Yeah.
And he was already double covered.
Yeah.
So, but they're already shading towards Wilson, as you saw in that
2
play.
DBs.
Exactly. So I love Wilson. I think he's going to be – listen, he was with the first unit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that tells you enough.
You can't argue with the fact that, Bono, you and I were talking about on the sideline with Michael Wilson. I know a lot of people on Twitter, and you guys are entitled to your own opinion, saying pump the brakes, it's early. Yes, it's early, but he's been with the ones the entire portion of training camp. Now, part of that is Hollywood Brown's been in and out of the lineup, and Zach Pascal. Week 1's going to come around, even if he's not, quote-unquote, listed as a starter against the Commanders. I'm sorry, he led the team in targets today. He had 2 touchdowns. He's healthy. He's incredibly physical, and to Saul's point, he can get separation against guys like Marco Wilson, who have been in this league for 3 seasons. Like, if Michael Wilson isn't starting week 1, what are you doing?
Right, and you see Zach Pascal, and he's kind of your opposite Hollywood Brown outside wide receiver. You see Michael Wilson, and he talked about this, I think, at the end of OTAs, that he learned every position on the route tree. Like, he's out there. He's got a diverse route tree that he's capable of running. They're going to find a spot for him. They just are. They're just preparing to anywhere. Like, if Dortch or Rondell Moore or Hollywood Brown or Pascal, if anybody takes a misstep, regardless if they don't, like, I think he's going to be out there. He's forcing the issue. He's that good. He shows up. I mean, even like for layman who's come, or the casual that comes out here, number 14 stands out on the field.
It's like, who's that guy? Look at his calves. Look at his upper body. Now,
it's Johnny Venerable. No, it's Michael Wilson.
Hang on.
Dude, hey, I don't want you guys to get confused. Everybody was out here watching the Cardinals, and that was cool. But the coolest part was actually watching these guys become celebrities in front of everybody, taking selfies with fans. And I mean, hey, these guys were as popular as hell. I'm walking by, I'm like, look at these two. This is awesome.
We're just here to do a job, guys. We're just here. We're here to be humble. We're here to produce a product for everybody here, the diehards. Go PHNX.com, PHNX Sports on YouTube.
I am worried about the quarterback position.
Of course.
I know everybody is,
Yeah.
but seeing it in person, it didn't exactly inspire a lot of confidence from me. I'm not – listen, Colt McCoy's been a serviceable backup for his entire career. I think he'll give you a game or two, and you just don't know a tune yet. But as Dortch said, he is improving, which is a great sign. He feels really comfortable with him, so that's a great sign. So I'm hoping that by the time we get to the season, you have a little bit of a buffer with Colt McCoy in order to get Tune a little bit more prepared for should he have to step into that role.
Now, I did before we let our guy Johnny go on Colt McCoy, I do want to say that I did see some things that I like from Colt McCoy today that I think that Clayton Tune doesn't possess the ability to read the defense, especially pre-snap, know where the pressures are going to come from, and know where his kind of safety outlets are going to be. He made some good plays to James Conner underneath. I know it was a lot of underneath, but it was balls that was going to James Conner.
Doesn't possess the ability to get a social security check, AARP card.
I mean, I think that he does. He has things that you can only have as you played as much football as Colt McCoy, and I thought that he did a good job. It was really rough out of the gates. I think the first team offense, they went backwards with some penalties. I think they had a 3-and-out their first series. I think 2 of the 3 series they didn't even see a first down. But he got more comfortable and made some decent throws.
I mean, it's a check down city, but producer Emma tells me that the highlights are ready to go. If you missed today, a bunch of people are like, where can we with highlights right now? These are the highlights from the red and white scrimmage today. And again, like I'm critical of Colt McCoy, Bo Brock, but at the same time, I understand like they're putting him out there as QB1. They may say he's not QB1, but he's out there. running around with the ones. Speaking of running around, we've got Rondale Moore. We've got Greg Dortch here catching a nice pass. We've got Hollywood Brown, who didn't participate, Bo, in any kind of team drills, but at least he's out there. Receiver is one of the deepest positions on the team, in my opinion. With some of these, they may not have a traditional number one receiver right now, but they've got a bunch.
I think they've got guys that are going to be able to move the chains, and it's not going to be 3 and out like it was a lot last season under Cliff Kingsbury. There's going to be some, obviously I think we saw maybe once or twice on first down they weren't running the football. I mean, because they're like ground and pound. We're going to make it second and third and manageable and set you up for success, because then you can take those possession receivers, those guys that run routes and get separation, then they can move the chains, and that's you'll take that right now as Kyler Murray, your big time playmaker, is working his way back.
For those that don't know, Kyler was out signing autographs. He was around the team today, which is great to see. I'll tell you something else, not to segue too hard, that was great to see today, and it's much better because Emma took this instead of my grainy-ass phone. But Isaiah Simmons almost intercepted a pass from Colt McCoy. Michael Wilson actually broke it up. Otherwise, Simmons pulls that down. Isaiah Simmons looks about as comfortable as I've seen him as an NFL player right now. Now, it's because of a position change, going from inside linebacker to free safety. But Saul, I mean, talk to me about the fourth-year player out of Clemson that right now they decline his fifth-year option. His status is kind of in limbo, yet he's out there, knocking Rondale Moore on his ass.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
and it's hard from our vantage point to see if Rondale Moore was like barking at him or if he was like laughing about it.
Yeah,
I think it was laughing.
Yeah,
I think it was kind of jovial a little bit as the machine gun goes off behind me again. I did like the fact that it does look like he's comfortable playing that center field position a lot more than definitely at linebacker for the last several years. I don't know. I'm going to have to.
It's early.
It's way early. Just like when you're talking about just about every other position, he's no different. I just feel like we're going to have to see it against some big time competition first to find out if this is the real deal. Washington in week 1, we're going to find out, is Isaiah Simmons going to be able to hold up in the secondary? And I think we're going to find out pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
I think that also it's going to come down to he's going to have to take the ball away. Like he really is going to have to. I mean, it was a great play, right? Yep. He broke up a touchdown, but in the regular season,
you gotta come down with that one. That was an easy one.
Yeah, I mean that's a pick right there, and he's made game changing plays, and I think that's what they want him to do, and it takes out the hard part. I think it's easier between the ears when you're just sitting back there and reacting. And that's the big thing for Simmons. Like, can he put himself in a position and know what his role is on any given play to where he can take that incredible, obviously 6'4", 240 frame, 4.3, 940, and put that skill set to work and make some big game-changing plays.
What I do love, though, is no matter what, you just know Isaiah Simmons is like, if he's frustrated, that's almost kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you just know he's going to take somebody's head off.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason why he didn't take out Rondale Moore's head off is because he knew he was in red and white.
Right.
Other than that, he would have completely decapitated.
Well, and everybody's kind of been calling for him to play safety, Cam Chancellor vibes, and that's an extreme example. Cam Chancellor is 1 in a million type of Hall of Fame level prospect. But I will say, Isaiah Simmons, and this is not a shot at him, I take shots, but he's at his best, I think, when he doesn't have to read and react and call the defense. I think just let his football instincts take over. That's what made him special at Clemson, albeit the Butkus Award winner playing linebacker. Buddha's a line of defense because you're white. You've got the defensive line. Hey, Isaiah, just go out there, lay people out, have passes deflected, get your occasional interception, be the cleanup man, because we know he runs 4.3. So it's like nobody ought to get behind him, especially with his size and speed. I'm fired up. I'm also fired up. They've got this ready for the start of the season.
I wish we knew this was going to happen because I absolutely want to mimic being one of those players running out.
You want to run out?
There's nobody in the stadium.
I'm
I
sure
don't
they
care.
would let you do that for sure.
Oh my gosh. He's so awesome. Electric.
If they can unlock, I mean, it would be great to see both of them unlock. But Simmons and Zaven Collins. And, Zaven Collins is out there today. We talked to him in the locker room. I don't know. Unless you have something else to say about Isaiah, I wouldn't mind pivoting to Zaven.
Well, here's my transition is
sure.
I think Isaiah is further along in his position change than Zaven Collins is.
Ooh.
Wow.
But I'm giving Zaven much more grace than Isaiah.
I mean, it's a lot more physical position.
It is, and that's why.
I mean, he's right at the front now.
Right.
I'm always amazed at how big Zaven Collins is.
Huge man.
He's a mountain of a man.
Yeah.
I mean, physically, I think he can hold up.
Yeah.
No problem. But there's a lot of adjustment for him in a variety of different ways. And so I see what you're saying about, like, you're going to give him a little bit of leeway.
Yeah.
He's also a year behind Isaiah, and it's a completely different system, obviously. So, but I do have confidence in this regime defensively more than I feel like I did with the former defensive coordinator, who I don't even want to bring up, that coaches for the Denver Broncos now. Yeah. Good riddance. Sorry, Vance. Sorry, Vance.
I mean,
you were chopping it up with Zaven in the locker
room.
Yeah,
so I was talking to him, and I was like, what's it like? Obviously,
because talking about cowboy boots, Vance.
We were talking afterwards. I asked him if he went to, I saw him here at George Strait and Chris Stapleton at the stadium, and he said it was elite. And then I was asking him if he went to the Morgan Wallen concert that was so popular downtown. He's like, no, I don't like that new stuff. I like the old stuff. I'm old school country. But I also want, before we got to that, the fun conversation, I was like, what's it like, being as physical each and every down, because you were standing up, you were off ball, you weren't taking those hits. And then it's also like, hey, you got to learn this new position. And the two people you have to go against most, you got DJ Humphries, who's in his 9th season, who didn't give up a sack last season when he was healthy. And then you got this, this huge uber prospect in Paris Johnson Jr. It's like, oh, go learn a new craft against those two beasts.
Well, we talked about it off air. Tackle is maybe the deepest position unit on the team, and you're asking this guy to play a brand new position. He's a great person. He's a great human being in Zaven Collins, and he's got immense football character and loves the game. Fast forward, Halloween, ask me about how he's doing. I'm willing to give him immense benefit of the doubt, in part because B.J. Ojulari is going to come back. I think Majay Sanders is going to come back faster than people think from his hand snafu. They're going to be able to run 4 deep at defensive end, whereas if Zaven needs to take a couple possessions off and they got to work on technique, they can do that. Whereas like Isaiah Simmons, it's like Isaiah Simmons is going to play free safety, and he's the only free safety starting right now. Whereas I think they can mix and match with their defensive line.
Do we have a nickname for Zaven Collins yet? No, right?
I don't think so.
The cowboy? I don't know.
Man. No, he's the shit kicker. That's it. Shit kicker. Okay, let's go.
That's it. That's a good.
Dude, I mean, I can see the merch right now. Come on, man.
I mean, we had people messaging us, and they're like, "Man, the D line did not look good." I would say right now, we tease this. Did we tease this? It's like when the pads come on,
hard.
The offensive line is much bigger and more physical, and the D tackles for this team are work in progress. So
I would say this too, Paris Johnson.
he's a superstar,
dude,
in the making.
I saw him on one possession alone hit 3 different dudes off the line to create a hole for James Conner, and that at that point I was like, yeah, he's going to be all right.
Yeah, and he's already, I think, at the next level as far as his maturation. Because one of the questions was, what was your favorite part of practice? What were a couple of your favorite reps? And he said, my combo blocks with Will Hernandez. He's like, and they're just kind of syncing up on the right side of that line. And we'd kind of looked at this as like, hey, they're more geared towards running the football.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they're going to run James Conner, they're going to run him on the right side. And those two guys, I mean, Will Hernandez is really solid in run blocking. Obviously, you want to see a little bit more in pass pro, but I mean, that side, that's where they're going to just lean on toting the rock.
Paris Johnson Jr. is going to have a C on his chest this time next year, and by the end of the year, he's going to be one of the best players on this team. We joked about it. Is Paris Johnson Jr. a top 10 player for this team already? Probably. Does that say more about the Cardinals roster than Paris Johnson Jr.? Maybe, but you see him in the locker room, and he's not overwhelmed. Like,
have you seen him in person yet?
I know, that was the first time.
He's a big kid, huh?
He's a big guy.
I mean, he was the starting tackle for Ohio State, a very comparable roster in terms of top-end talent than the Cardinals. And so, like, this does not overwhelm him. Yeah. We've had rookies who have come to this team from small schools like Tulsa, like Boston College and UMass, and they've had trouble transitioning, right? We had a kid that come from Temple and have to switch positions. This is why we've been hammering the point home. When you take players from these blue chip programs that play premium positions, it's easier for them. Now, their ceiling might not be as high, and we know the aforementioned GM loved to talk about ceilings with tweener players. But how about get a kid like Paris Johnson Jr., year one, his floor is going to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's the key right there. It's like, okay, the ceiling might not be as high, but the floor won't be as low.
Right. And I think his ceiling is high too.
And when you're talking about overall production and overall stability more than anything else, you can't afford to have these misses, which obviously Kime and Cliff had,
Yeah.
where these guys, when they missed horribly.
Right.
And then you had to not only make up the gap, but you had to find somebody to back up who that person was that you were hoping to replace that gap with.
Yep.
So I completely agree. When you go in blue chip, the drop-off is not near as severe. And with Paris Johnson, I just love the fact that even in the locker room, just a small little snippet, right? The other offensive linemen were like, I can't believe you're doing an interview in front of Buddha's locker room. And in front of Buddha's locker, and he kind of looked, and he was just like, "All right, next question." Like, he did not give two shits about it, but he also brought in all the helmets and pads. He did all the rookie duties, like, so that speaks to his character about like, hey, I'm gonna do what I need to do, but I'm also gonna do what I need to do.
Signed for fans well after everybody else had left. He's the biggest person on the team. Like we talked about it, DJ Humphries is huge. You see DJ Humphries, like, that's a huge man. He's bigger than DJ Humphries.
Yeah, he dwarfs DJ, and like he takes it and kind of gives it back a little bit from his teammates. The offense and the defense were razzing the rookie, the top pick for the Arizona Cardinals, and he didn't miss a beat. And he answered our questions, and Isaiah Simmons was saying, "Why don't you tell him about how you got fined and all that?" And he just moved forward, and that's the poise you need. And that's what you get from these big schools. Ohio State, last time I checked, in the Big Ten, right? Yeah. I can't keep up.
No, they made the Big Ten,
right?
For sure.
Yes. Yeah. What else stood out to you during this practice? I mean, we talked about the wideouts.
James Conner looked really good.
Okay.
I mean, we know what the deal is with James Conner. I mean, the workload, what's it going to look like for a guy who, he's been oft injured in his career, but his last 2 seasons in the desert, he's been rock solid. He's got 26 touchdowns between the two of them. He's the leader here on and off the field. He had a big touchdown from Colt McCoy that he leapt for in the end zone, and I think that James Conner is, if he can stay healthy, he can continue to put up big, huge, robust statistics for the Cardinals. And then you see a guy who could potentially hit his spell back, and Marlon Mack, who hit the ground running in his debut, Johnny.
Yeah, we talked to Marlon Mack in the locker room, and he was just like, I just wanted an opportunity. He played for Gannon, which I forgot up until this week that he and Gannon were together in Indianapolis a couple of years ago during his banner season of over 1,000 yards. And he's like, yeah, JG's got that energy. I wanted to come here, and so he's going to get an opportunity. He looked good today. I love Keontae Ingram. He's not practicing right now, which is not a good thing for a position, number one, that people don't value like they once did. And then for the Cardinals, this is wide open. So James Conner, I think, is en route to 20, 25 touches per game minimum. But Marlon Mack, he was the one back today outside of James where it's like that guy could have housed one or two of these handoffs.
Yeah. Again, I just worry about the older vet guys.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why they're not being valued as much, as they got so much wear and tear on their bodies that when they get, when the rubber meets the road, they might give you, again, like the Colt McCoy thing, where he might give you a game or two,
right? But
then that arm kind of turns, a little rubbery, and it doesn't have as much sauce as it did. The same thing with running backs. It's like we saw this with David Johnson, where all of a sudden it just dropped.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't know if that's going to be the same thing with a guy like Marlon Mack. Clearly, he wasn't able to find a different home. Now he's here. He's gonna have opportunities, but again, once you get to I'm not worried about the first couple games of the season.
Right.
I'm more talking about like games 5 through 8. Like, are we going to start to see this slow down? And hopefully he will be able to stay on this roster and contribute when the season hits.
Well, that's the biggest reason why they vetted a lot of rookies in the NFL draft at the position. They just didn't pull the trigger. So you knew this year, Bo, would kind of be a hodgepodge of James Conner and just kind of see what they have. I think everybody expects this team to add a back next year that's going to be around this team long term. But at least in 2023, the mindset and the motto of Gannon and Ossenford seems to be, let's just see what we have. Let's see what we have with Simmons and Collins, and we'll let James Conner be our team captain, and he's going to help us get to the next era of Cardinal football. Same with Zach Ertz. It's like the mindset is not, let's flush with high-priced free agents. Let's flip over the roster tenfold. A little bit like what we're seeing in Chicago right now. Chicago is attempting to remake the roster. They spent almost $100 million in free agency. The Cardinals are letting what was here before in the Kingsbury Kime era settle in, and it's like that Collinger, right? It's like, let's see what remains and what's part of the future.
So we saw what we wanted from the players, the rookies, some key, veterans making some position changes, Simmons and Zaven Collins. What did you see from the play callers out there? I think the offense, completely different look than what we've seen. Everything's in the middle of the field. It's not on the sidelines, and it's not behind the line of scrimmage. That's refreshing.
And it's not in shotgun. That's the other thing. No. Everything is right underneath this. I mean, you're looking. We saw some heavy sets today. We saw some linemen going in motion.
Linemen?
Yeah, like so we saw a lot of different formations that were really bunched up, bigger lineups. You're talking about your 12 personnels and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it because I like the high flying kind of game, but I don't like what I just saw the last couple of years.
No, I don't think anybody does.
Not that kind of high flying. You know what I mean? I want to see the Kansas City kind of high flying.
Right.
Not this, whatever that shit was.
Well, and I think, too, like, we got to be real. Like, if this team's going to be limited, they have to minimize their mistakes. And the way to do that is by running the football. And I think for the first time in forever, the depth up front right now lends you to believe that it's smart to run the football. It's smart to go heavy. Hell, Bo, they've got an H-back out there running around in number 81. So the wideouts are big, the offensive linemen are big, the running backs are big, and they're just tuning up this machine for a certain franchise quarterback to come back and not have to carry the workload, something that he was never asked not to do under Cliff Kingsbury.
Well, and also, in addition to that, like we talked about the high flying, like think about the run and gun kind of way that Cliff was running. With the defensive line that you have right now, you're going to get torched.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
Yep.
So you have to control the clock. You have to run the ball. You have to wear other teams down. Even if you don't wear them down, as long as you can have possession of that ball for longer periods of time to give your defense the utmost advantage possible, that's what I think this team is really gearing for. Now, down the road, when they can modify some things, get some big hog mollies up there on that defensive line, then you can afford to do a little wrinkle or two here and there. But I think for right now, this is what you're going to see for the most part.
Yep.
You're probably going to see 15. Bo laughed. I was like, dude, you might see 15 passes a game. Like, seriously, you might see 15 to 20 passes a game. And that's about it.
10 of those better go to Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. That's fine.
Then the other is going to be 30, 35, 40 runs a game. Yeah. Like, I would not be shocked.
That's what's going to save this season from, people turning off the television on Sunday. Like, if you're playing the San Francisco 49ers and they force a turnover from this offense, and then it's, one run from Christian McCaffrey and then a big play and a score, and then, the offense is off the field again, and then that Niners offense is back out, it just wears you down, and the game's out of hand before you know it. And that's what they're going to avoid. And I think that puts you in a decent spot to be able to avoid that. And, get it even as far as the time of possession goes, and save your defense that might be under par as far as personnel.
How many times last year did we see this team just struggle
every game?
And when the other team scored, and then we're like, all right, man, we just need let's just get a first down and kind of get the momentum. Right. And it was like 3 and out within 30 seconds.
Not only 3 and out.
That's the worst thing that could have happened.
It was like incomplete pass, screen pass, negative play, penalty. I mean,
not just a screen pass. A screen pass too.
Rondale Moore.
There you go.
Poor guy. Rondale,
he looks good in the slot.
He does. He caught a touchdown too. The slot receiver position for the Cardinals is robust with he and Dortch. Now, we're favored to our new co-host and Greg Dortch because I think again he's proven more. I think he was robbed of opportunities last year to have 600-700 yards in this offense. But Rondale, you said it the other day, he's having a nice, quiet camp. Mm-hmm. Like, if your guys like Simmons and Rondale Moore that were high draft picks that haven't lived up to expectations, it's like, just go about your business, right? It's a lunch pail mentality of every day I'm on the field. And unfortunately right now, Bo, I cannot say that about my darling of the second round a year ago, number 85, Trey McBride, who did not practice today.
Just nicked and bruises, all that. That's what JG gives us. We don't really truly know what's going on with McBride. I'm not sure. I mean, that tight end position, it's kind of banged up. I mean, you've got Ertz, who's coming back from the ACL tear, and he also had a ligament that was worked on in surgery. So, and he's not a spring chicken, right? I mean, he's in his 30s, and then you've got Jeff Swaim, who is already kind of banged up as well. I mean, Noah Tagaye is the only guy that's healthy and playing well in that tight end group. So I think it's a missed opportunity so far for McBride. But if he can get back before the start of the regular season, that's what's important.
The one thing that stuck out of what JG said was that they all do something different.
Yeah,
the tight ends.
And there's a part of me in the back of my head that's like, you don't like that, do you? Like, I think he would prefer a specific type for, especially for this offense and how they want to run the ball. I'm sure he would prefer a much better run blocking type of trio, if you will, at the tight end position, as opposed to what he might have with McBride even when he comes back. Because McBride's hasn't always been the best run blocker.
Yeah, he's a pass catcher first.
Yeah.
And I think he's still poised for a big season. He's got to come back though, because right now, as Gannon put it, like nobody's spot is solidified. You got to perform. And if you're not out there performing, unless you're like a made man like Kyler Murray or Zach Ertz or somebody like that, it's like your job's up for grabs. And I think that's what's so refreshing about this staff, especially with this rookie class. It's like these rookies are going to play. Like Paris Johnson Jr., Michael Wilson are going to play and start week one. And I'm sure that bothers people on the roster that, hey, I've got X amount of experience, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're just getting outperformed. And right now for Trey McBride, it's like, the best thing for him to do is to come out and catch up as soon as he can, because the more time you miss, the more you're going to dig yourself in a hole with this staff, unfortunately.
See in the chat, and forgive us, we're not as involved in the chat. We can't see it as
we don't have
we
our
usually
screen in
do.
front of us.
But let's see. Alex saying a lot of PHNX shirts in the stands, and he loved it. We love to hear that as well. It was great seeing Jacob out there. It was great to get a selfie. I think that's the same Alex that we took the selfie with. It was great to do that post-practice. And, of course, we love to see all the PHNX swag out here. We're going to be out here each and every Sunday at the BetMGM Sportsbook, just right there in the Great Lawn. We're going to be amongst the Red Sea. It's going to be unbelievable what's going to be going down. We got a taste of it yesterday during our Knockout Nights cornhole tournament that Saul Bookman nearly took home for the crew.
I'll tell you what, man, if it wasn't dark, I feel like Sean and I would have at least gotten to the championship, because I felt like I had no depth perception in the thrust of midnight.
Yeah, we all make excuses. It's fine.
Did I get further than any PHNX team?
I don't know. I feel like we were kind of hosed a little bit. There was a cheering section for the folks that we lost to, and
then we had Saul trying to rush us off the boards.
Did you get rattled because people were like talking?
I don't know. Fatigue was setting in for your boy. So in all seriousness, no, BetMGM, the vibes were electric yesterday. They're going to be electric every single football Sunday. You gave me a taste a little bit of what people can expect.
Yes.
Can you share?
I will share that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have completely revamped everything that we're trying to do here for our tailgates. If you came to our tailgates before, they used to be at the Lola, and they were fun. But they weren't extra, and at PHNX we like to be extra. So so one of the changes that we're going to have is we will have an actual tailgate spot out there on the Great Lawn right next to the BetMGM Sportsbook. That's number one. And I have some personal relationships with some pretty cool people in the barbecue community, including 4-time world champion. I'm not gonna say their name yet, but they are a 4-time world champion, and they were going to be coming out to several of our tailgates to help cook some barbecue for our tailgates. Our people at Four Peaks are going to hook us up with some beer. So, hey, listen, it's we're going to figure out how we're gonna do this. If we're going to make this Die Hard only or not. But now's a great time to become a Die Hard, because no matter what, you're going to save money on tickets, even if we sell tickets for this. Or we might just say it's only for diehards, and if you're a diehard, you get to get in for free. Who knows? I'll figure this all out. A lot to be determined, but we have those things going on. It's going to be a tremendous time every single tailgate. So no matter what, no matter how the team is performing, you're always going to have a great time coming out to these games, because you're going to be surrounded by a bunch of people that love the Cardinals as much as you do, and that's a fantastic thing.
Live broadcast, pregame, halftime, postgame. If you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I want to invest in tickets yet, just come hang out at the tailgate. Come hang out at BetMGM Sportsbook.
You want to tell them who's going to rejoin you for those games?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Special announcement.
Yeah.
Number 81, Frank Sanders will be back on the post-game show and pregame show and halftime show. Myself, Bo Brock, the occasional appearance by the GM Saul Bookman every single football Sunday. Cardinal great Frank Sanders will be back, confirmed, for the start of the regular season. Regular season not here yet, Bo Brock. So under a microscope now, 1 week away from the Denver Broncos. Who do you think has made the biggest jump for this team from the start of training camp till now?
I mean, obviously Wilson, because he's starting with the ones. If Hollywood Brown for some reason can't get out there, I mean, I know it's chalk to say Michael Wilson, but he's having such a fantastic camp. But you're seeing that wide receiver core, really, it's deep. You know what people's roles are, and they're going to be able to make some plays for this offense that absolutely needs it, whether it's a veteran quarterback who's 37 years old and banged up and doesn't have all the arm strength that you want, or if it's a rookie. I think that they're going to be in a good position to get the ball into their playmakers' hands. So I think that Michael Wilson, that wide receiver core, I think that's where you want him to be. As far as like on the defensive side of the football, I mean, you know who always kind of brings the juice, but I like what you said about Isaiah Simmons. And then I think quietly a guy like Cam Thomas can continue to kind of be the main threat as far as the pass rush goes as other people kind of figure it out.
Yeah, is it wrong for me just to say, like, I'm not worried at all about the defense because of who their head coach is and who their defensive coordinator is? Like, I think there'll be growing pains early, and I think some of that was on display today. Lack of talent may be a problem on defensive tackle, but November, December, like, check back in. I think this defense is going to play much better. Everybody settles into their roles. Saw you get guys like Majay Sanders, B.J. Ojulari, the second-rounder, has not practiced yet, coming off PUP hopefully soon. Garrett Williams out of Syracuse. It's going to be a young defense that's going to have growing pains early, but I think they're also saw help by the fact that, I mean, you get the Commanders week 1, you get the Giants week 2. This team.
Yeah, but the Commanders are not a slouch.
Well, offensively, I'm not super impressed with them.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to say I'm always going to be worried about the defense because they have some tweeners. They have some dudes that are just on that defensive line that just don't have the expertise to be able to play at a high level, or at least high enough of a level to be able to get your other accessory pieces to also play and scheme in a way to be so as effective as they need to be.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
No problem.
So I would say my biggest growth would be Clayton Tune. I would say Clayton Tune. From not really knowing what this kid was going to be able to do, to see him out there today, I would not have known that he was necessarily in his first year. He didn't make any egregious errors.
No.
He was very fundamentally sound. He made some nice throws. He knew where he wanted to go with the ball for the most part. I didn't see him really get on that scramble drill. I mean, hell, we saw Colt McCoy get on a scramble drill, and then he threw that one to the corner to James Conner. But I told you, I was like, if this was the regular season, that dude would have got lit up to the second row because there were several defensive players that were right by him that just kind of let up, obviously, for obvious reasons. So I would say that was the number one thing. And then I would agree in the Isaiah Simmons part in terms of his growth as well. Like, I think that it's tough. I mean, I can't even imagine being in his position where every single year they're like, oh, you're going to be this hybrid, or no, now we want you to do this. No, we want you to do this. Now it seems like they have a better plan, and like everybody's been saying from start, Kyler said this. It just feels like everything is being explained in a much better way this time around, and guys know what their role and responsibility is supposed to be. And so when you know that, you can go out there and effectively carry out your duties. And I think that's what all these professionals really appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, they're being educated. They're being taught football by people who know football. I hope Mikey in the chat knows football, because I love this comment. This team I foresee as 10-7, playing for the wild card NFC West, will be stronger this season. I'll drink the Kool-Aid. I'm always drinking the Kool-Aid before the season, and it might help.
I agree with Dylan. You got to add a veteran on the D-line in order to make that happen. I mean, I just don't – you have to be able to play up front. You have to be able to play in the trenches and give you a chance, because, I mean, that was the straw that stirred the drink as far as Gannon's defense last year, is that defensive line. It's a polar opposite. I mean, you go from a who's who, from a Fletcher Cox to Jason Hargrove.
Wait, we don't have those players here?
No, Ndamukong Suh. No, I mean that front the front seven is, they need somebody desperately to step up. It's a Rashard Lawrence. Is it Carlos Watkins? Is it going to be Lucky Fotu in his fourth season? You need to get unpredicted play. Good play from these defensive line players. I mean, because you like what's behind them, right? I think you like the linebackers.
A lot.
I think you're encouraged by the defensive secondary, and you know what you're going to get from Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson.
Does it frustrate you that, I mean, like, other teams are signing free agent defensive tackles? Now, the Cardinals are going to be in position to claim guys. Do you think they will be active in adding somebody? Because, I mean, like, they just added a running back. We've been clamoring they need another back. Mm-hmm. Like, is it the logical turn to now, as preseason starts and people are cut and people are moved, to go get a defensive lineman?
Who's going to become available?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be Monty Austinfort's way. Yeah. I just don't think that was the New England way. I don't think that was the Tennessee way. I don't think it's going to be the Cardinal way. I know people are going to want an influx of talent and change this and change that. This is going to be a very methodical process, and if you're not mentally ready for it, you better be, because listen, Monty's out there, and this is one of the things I do love. Kime used to watch these things from the stands, right next
to the suite,
right next to Michael. I've seen him in the stands, but Monty's out there on the field. He's talking to JG,
like another coach out there.
Yeah, and he stayed. The great thing about it is he also stayed until every single player was done on the field, signing autographs, and saying, "Hey, you good? You need anything? Whatever." Like, to every single player that came off, and I was just like, That's attention to detail right there. You know what I mean? And players talk about those kind of things. You know what I mean? And so I think that Monty is going to take a look at this. He's not going to make any brash decisions. He's going to make decisions that he thinks is in the best interest of the team, but he's not going to go out of his way to sign some superstar or get some guy that got cut from a team just because we need to fill a need. I think if he doesn't fit, then he's not going to go out and get him.
If you could harness the polar opposite of what this team was on and off the field last year and the embarrassment that they were, that's Gannon and Ossenfort. It is almost like an authoritative mindset that they exude when they walk around. Like Ossenfort, it's almost like the principal is around from high school. It's like, oh, I got to get my shit together, right? I got my hall pass ready to go. We saw Ossenfort after practice, and we yelled some stuff at him. Super friendly guy.
Yeah.
But you can tell, like, deep down, especially after
that was more you.
Yeah.
We kind of spazzed out.
I didn't spazz out. He's like, hey, man, we love the show. We love the product. I was like, thank you so much, Monty. No, he didn't. But maybe one day we can get him on the podcast.
He did?
No. But the draft.
He said we're getting better every day.
Yeah, I said, hey, product was good today because it wasn't last year at the Red and White Scrimmage. It was a cupcake country club training camp, and it was embarrassing last year. And I was embarrassed for the people that came out and had to watch that under Cliff Kingsbury. This year, at least, the talent may not be there in some spots. They were hitting today. They were physical today, and if you're Ossenfort, I could be proud of that product.
There's the correct amount of fear and respect there for that position.
Yes,
it really
well
is.
Said.
I mean, it's not Seymour Skinner. It's not like look at this. It's not
the principal from the Breakfast Club.
From The Simpsons. Yeah, I mean, it's not just a guy trying to be authoritative to kind of make his mark. No, it's out there because it's for a reason, and I like what I've seen from these two leaders.
Yeah, they're stripping this down, they're building it back up, and they're playing young players. And if this team does struggle, I'm not saying they're going to, but if it does struggle, you want to struggle and teach and educate and let players go through growing pains. And again, that was never allowed with the prior regime. It was like, we're going to lose and we're going to struggle, and here's a guy who's 29 years old making the vet minimum. Let's get him out there over Isaiah Simmons, over Zaven Collins. Like, that's done. Like, the rookies are playing. The rookies are going to be able to see a maturation process September, October, November. That was not allowed in years prior. And that's why, as much as I like to dog on Isaiah Simmons, I will never, ever discredit the idea that his development was hampered by the prior regime. And now it looks like even though they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, there's a glimmer of hope with that young man, number 9, in the back end of the defense. Like, this could be something.
Who knows?
Let's answer some of these chat questions before we get out of here. Spencer76 saying, what's the timeline for a K1 return, Johnny?
So Kyler Murray was out here running around today. I think the timeline is, can they get him off of PUP before the start of the regular season? That would give him definitive hope and the fan base that he would be ready the first month. If that doesn't happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks, like
he can't come back until after the 6th week, correct?
Yeah, or
I think it's 4th now.
4th now?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
there's no timeline though.
No, there's not. Is that what you were setting me up for? To say
I thought
there's no
so,
time?
But then I'm
not trying to
be
be a smartass and say, hey, we don't know what's going on.
No, I mean, I think it's still, he's putting in the work. It's a day-to-day thing, and we'll see where they are, tomorrow, and then the next day, and then hopefully, like we said earlier this week with the Hollywood Brown quote tweet, one up next as far as the absurd 2012 season that Adrian Peterson had 8 months removed from ACL surgery. They're talking about it. The door remains open. Are you skeptical that it might not happen? I understand that, but the door is
Don't
open.
Don't shake your head over here.
No, I'm just saying, like, we can't compare K1 to Adrian Peterson.
You don't think they're in the same
Heisman Trophy
as far
winners,
as freaks, like freak
Oklahoma
athletes?
Talent.
Drafted in the top 10 in 2 leagues.
Adrian Peterson is carrying like bulls up a mountain with his teeth. Like, he's just a different dude. Like, I'm not comparing anybody to Adrian Peterson. I'm not saying Kyler hasn't put in the work by any stretch of the imagination, because I know he has. But come on, guys. Like, we've seen Adrian like, he's a physical freak.
I saw Colt McCoy out there today.
I saw an old Adrian Peterson here wear a Cardinals uniform.
He was really good that first game against Tampa.
And then what happened?
First game against Tampa.
I saw Colt McCoy out there today, and I said Kyler Murray can do that. Now, if it's their decision as to whether or not they want somebody at 90% to go out there and do what Colt does, or they want him 100% back and whenever that is. But
listen, I think Kyler is obviously. I've always loved Kyler's abilities.
Yes.
And I've always been a Kyler guy. I think he's going to do a tremendous amount for this team when healthy. And I do think that this system is going to help him grow immensely. And then what I'm hoping for is the growth that they're going to be able to add to it instead of throttle it down. And I think they will be because of his skill sets.
Yeah.
And you don't want to rush him back. You know, like I know it might get ugly in the first 4 to 8 games. It might. They might start off, you know, anywhere from 0-8 to 1 you know, whatever. I'm not even going to speculate. But we're all cautiously optimistic because of this. But Kyler Murray is a difference maker, period. And I just I don't know how. I think it's more on how comfortable is he going to feel to come back, and when is that going to happen? Because he doesn't strike me as the type of person that's going to force himself to come back if he doesn't feel like he's 1,000% ready.
That's what they've said. Austin Ford Gannon said that he's going to come back when he's ready to come back. Ryan in the chat, who gets the starting center job? Well, Yelda Froldholt is the center now, but veteran Pat Elflein is climbing up to second team after only being on the team a couple weeks. But I think a lot of that is who looks better in the preseason. Like if Elflein looks better and Yelda Froldholt is struggling in pass protection, getting blown up, like they won't hesitate to make that change. I think it's a coin flip.
Absolutely. I mean, when you talk about Kyler Murray and your most as far as assets go, you can't mess around with, you know, who's snapping the football and who's going to be on that offensive line. But I think Froholdt is a guy that they want to win the job. I think that when Petzing brings him from Cleveland, he knows kind of the system he's going to run. He sees that there could be potential there with gaining some experience and some development. They want Fro, I think, to win that job, but they brought in Pat Elflein as a security blanket in case there is some missteps and maybe he just can't get the job done. But I think that there's some confidence in that offensive line. And like before we get out of here, I mean, that just to piggyback or parlay some of the things we said about Kyler and him in this offense, I mean, this is a guy that's going to be able to play under center for the first time in his career. He's going to have the conflict of that. Plus, you know, our defense is going to think he's going to hand the ball off or is he going to play action, or is he going to find, you know, he's going to get more wide open receivers than he ever has in his system? I mean, guys like Dortch and Wilson just have the ability to get open. And when you have deadly accuracy like Kyler Murray, I mean, he completes close to 69-70% of his passes already. Yeah. I mean, we're going to see that number go up.
Yeah, it's an offense that I think is going to highlight his skill set, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see all of you at BetMGM Sportsbook every single football Sunday. Myself, Bo Brock, the occasional appearance by the GM Saul Bookman, the PHNX Cardinal podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast.
I'll be out there at every tailgate, sweating my ass off behind that grill. I promise you I will be. I love that shit.
He's a man of the people. This is the podcast of the people, your premier PHNX Cardinals podcast. Post-game show, we want to thank Greg Dortch, the newest member of the PHNX Cardinals family. We will be back on Monday breaking down game week. The Cardinals take on the Denver Broncos next Friday. Your coverage starts and ends with this podcast. Thank you to producer Emma making all of this happen.
She's a G.
Yep, the superstar behind the scenes. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next week.